It's classic British, of course. We start off talking about the weather and complain about the heat and complain about the cold and the rain. So, you know, this is what we're complaining about today. Anyway, we've got a fairly packed agenda. Have we had any apologies, Lisa?
We have had a number of apologies, but I think it might be, for essence of time, easier for me to, go through those.
And we've got a few people who I know who are here definitely for the first time. Rosamund Nankick, Annie Skinner, and Paul Addison. Welcome. Would any of you just like to say anything briefly in terms of introduction? Don't feel you have to, but opportunity if you'd like to.
I'm happy to. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go.
Me too.
Paul Allison. Obviously my first meeting. Thanks very much for inviting me on. I reached out to Lisa, I think a few months ago now, after seeing a poster up in the Great Western Hospital whilst I was waiting for a CT scan. We then had a really interesting and helpful conversation afterwards, and here I am. So yeah, just currently thymus cancer patient. I'm being monitored at the moment. Fingers crossed, all is well, and just really looking forward to playing a part in the Alliance. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Annie, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I have stage 4 lung cancer, and I go to the Churchill lung cancer patients group. I have targeted therapy because I have a genetic mutation, but I'm very realistic about prognosis, which is not good. So I want to take advantage of the time I have left on this planet to do what I can, and would be happy to do whatever I can in this group to help promote the lung cancer, but it's also so stigmatized amongst other cancers, and I think that needs to be really taken up by the patient alliance members, because we are like, and everybody says they're a Cinderella, but it is a strange thing to be so stigmatized. I just say everybody who has lungs can get lung cancer. It's that I don't want to stigmatize it any further.
Okay, thank you, Annie. Is it Rosamund or Roz?
Roz.
Hi, Roz. Do you want to say anything?
No, I just only clocked in. No, I'm fine, thank you. That's fine. Unless you want me to say something.
No, feel free. No, it's it's your choice.
Okay.
And welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Anyone else I've missed who's here for the first time? Welcome too. Okay, let's move on then to minutes of the last meeting. It seems it's such a long time ago. People can see it. Are there any things arising that we're not going to deal with on the agenda? No. Okay. And then in terms of the action log, Lisa, is there anything critical that you need to update on the action log?
I don't think so. Hoping you can still see my screen.
Yep.
And the action log showing. Great. Okay. So the main thing is around obviously data. There's a few points that I'd like to obviously share a little bit later on in the meeting. But I think we're okay. I think the last update was at the end of May, and I've put those dates, I've put those updates in the action log, so that's all okay. So yeah, I'll update it later on after today, and we'll circulate again.
Okay, Peter, you have a hand up?
Thank you, William. Obviously, we're all responsible for contributing. I would welcome a one-to-one review of these minutes with a clinician. Any clinician nominated, I was suggested by one of the clinicians attending, that'll be fine. Targets, one item for the information of the next meeting, and at least 2 items for my personal action before the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Okay, we'll be coming back, as Lisa said, to quite a lot of stuff about data in a little while. And I know it's kind of one of the issues we've kind of struggled with in the past to kind of get relevant and full data, but hopefully we're going to do something to address that later on. Okay, Lisa, you're still on then. The last executive board in April, unfortunately, I was unable to make it, mainly because they changed the date at very short notice. But anyway, Lisa, you're going to give us an update. Can people see Lisa's screen? Yep.
I'm on mute. There we go. You can hear me now.
I can hear you now. Yep.
All right. So I didn't attend the executive board directly. However, I've just kind of put a little pre-C summary together for you. So the Edge Health SACT Capacity Demand and Workforce Project report was shared. SACT standing for Systemic Anti-Cancer Therapy. So basically this report was conducted by Edge Health around capacity and demand, and obviously a workforce and the resources that we have to obviously support that service. Context was given as well as objectives and outputs, and obviously highlighting the expected growth in SACT activity going forward. Oh, I've got some feedback from somebody.
Got a bit of feedback there.
Would it be possible just to put folk on
If
mute?
you just go on mute for a moment to get rid of the feedback.
Okay, let's try that.
Try that again. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So strategies were discussed around managing the increase for demand on SACT services, and obviously looking at if we can have some collaboration with pharmaceutical companies. They're looking at sort of how that's best done. So putting some modelling together around future demand and proposals. And I think the next step is looking at senior leadership coming together with oncologists to set up task and finish groups and making sure obviously that whatever activities are put in place, that they are, there's sustainability ensured around that. Also at the executive board was our element around the National Cancer Patient Experience Survey. So the lead cancer nurse action plans were presented by each of the trusts, but by Lyndall, and there was agreement, excuse me, there was agreement that we would take forward specific projects, obviously making sure that patient involvement was essential. One of those is around the provision of financial information to those cancer patients receiving treatment, and I'll go into a little bit more about that later on in the agenda. Okay, let me move a slide. Great. So another area was around the 24-25 priorities. So there are 3 focus areas for this coming and next year: operational performance and faster diagnosis, targeted lung health checks, and obviously workforce challenges, which we know is, has been ongoing for this year as well. Proactive planning and efficient resource allocation to ensure sustainability in each of those. And the last thing I wanted to touch upon at the executive board was around the psychological support and equitable access for patients. So you may remember that David Charles, who sits on this group as a patient rep, he actually joined the Psychological Mapping Service project, looking at what services were available for patients, and gave his sort of input and recommendations, and that paper was presented to the board. They've agreed that effective management of resources needs to obviously be taken forward, strategic collaboration with pharmaceutical companies as well, and utilising targeted programmes of funding allocated within TVCA key areas that we've already established. So that's it on the executive board. I'm going to swiftly move on to talk about the delivery group. So the delivery group is kind of more the on-the-ground group feeding out from the executive board outcomes. So the executive board update was shared. Obviously, I've just mentioned about the SAP project and 24-25 priorities. There was also sort of a bit of a deep dive around how we can better ourselves with regards to our communication and engagement strategy as part of the Alliance going forward. That's actually being covered off later on by a colleague from CSU, Nikki Mallin, as a separate agenda item, so I won't go into detail about that. The third thing to highlight around the delivery group was about the structure of our clinical advisory group. Some of you I know sit on those groups. They're called CAGs for short at the moment, but a survey was sent out basically to ascertain what the thoughts were around it and were they actually delivering the service outcomes and the pathway improvements that we were hoping. So a survey went out to CAG leads, senior leadership in trust, and also allied health professionals. So there was agreement that to deliver overall service transformation, setup of tumour pathway improvement boards would actually be helpful with regards to governance. And there's going to be some specific pathway boards set up for skin, gynae, breast, colorectal, lung and SAT, and that obviously ties in with priorities as well. With regards to data and cancer waiting times and obviously programme updates, I don't need to obviously tell you guys, because you're all aware about our trust being under pressure with the significant treatment backlogs that they're trying to get through. Unfortunately, there isn't anybody to present data today at this group meeting. There's still limited resources within our data team. However, what I have done is that I've gone onto the NHS England cancer waiting time sort of verified data area, and I have pulled together a couple of slides for you just for that. I think just gives you sort of the highlights that you might obviously be wanting to make a note of. I know one of the things that Kath had mentioned at the last meeting was around actually having patient numbers rather than percentages. So that's something that I've done. I've put the link in there with regards to the cancer waiting times sort of area on NHS England's website, because it splits it into all routes of cancer, cancer specific routes, all the providers across the whole of England. But obviously I've just picked out our specific trust within our area. So if I go on to my first slide then, so this is 4-week wait, 28 days, faster diagnosis service. So this is from urgent referral to patients being told they have cancer or cancer is definitely excluded. And again, as I say, it's all routes. So we've got Buckingham Healthcare Trust, Great Western in Swindon, Oxford, Royal Berks. And this is all routes, and this is the total number of people receiving treatment for cancer within 28 days, after 28 days, and obviously told within 28 days. I've put at the bottom, I thought it was useful just to kind of give you a national sort of statistic as well, and an overall total of obviously people and percent. The information presented within the website also indicates days from 15 to 28, 29 to 42, 43 to 62, and after 62 days. But I just thought for the purpose of today, I'll sort of minimise what I'm sharing.
Okay, just pause there for a moment. We'll
take a drink.
Yeah. We'll be circulating the slides afterwards, so you'll have all this data available. I think the only sort of comment I would make is, you know, clearly where this is identifying a variation, you know, in terms of if one looks at the percentages, but as has been said, percentages aren't everything. But again, while I think it's difficult to get into any detailed questions about this, does anyone have any immediate sort of quick comments about what you're seeing here?
Well, I'll just comment because it was me that raised it, so I'm Kath. Yeah, I think it's great to see it. I think what we need to also look at is revert the percentages backwards. So if you look at Great Western, that's nearly 40% of people haven't been told within the desired time. So although it's great to look at the national standards, I think we also need to perhaps put our own box on the end, which is basically working out what percentages haven't been told and what number of patients that is, because that's the critical factor. Those are all the patients that are waiting, and that's the figure that, I mean, I can do that calculation myself, that's not a problem, and everybody else can potentially, but it's great to see the figures. And indeed I did email the people who produce these statistics after we'd had the last meeting. I did get a quick response. It wasn't much more than I could see myself, to be honest, which wasn't really of great benefit. But they did respond quickly. So if you do have any questions with the link that has been given to us, then you may find an email address. And if you have any specific questions about specific cancers, they may be able to answer some questions for you. So it's worthwhile sending an email. Thanks very much, Lisa, for doing that. Thank you.
Anyone else, any comments or thoughts before we move on to the next slide? Okay, you want to carry on, Lisa?
Thank you. So the next is about the one month wait, 31 day from a decision to treatment, earliest clinical appropriate date to first or subsequent treatment of cancer. This is all stages. Again, you can break down the spreadsheet as to how you like, and obviously all cancers, but I just giving you a flavour there. Nationally, it's down from 91% in March, obviously showing 89.2 in April. And again, there's 32 to 38, 39 to 48, etc. breakdowns on the website if you want to have a look. So this is first treatment. So again, it's exactly the same as before, 1 month wait, but it's actually first time treatment. And obviously the figures slightly vary here also. And I've just got one last slide, which is 2 month wait. So that's 62 days. It was down from 68.7% in March. And overall, we've been advised, and it's been sort of advertised in a number of sort of internal meetings, etc., that with regards to the overall 62-day backlog, week commencing the 31st of March, the year was finalised with 14,916 patients, not just meeting the 18,700 target, but exceeding it by 4,000 patients. So it's basically marking a critical milestone that we're actually now, you know, coming back from the effects of the pandemic, and there's going to be a central focus going forward on the combined 62-day standard.
I think that's an important thing to note, but on the other hand, I think we still kind of need to reflect on the fact that it clearly still isn't good enough. You know, if we look at these kind of percentages, and inevitably there's going to be a variation across different trusts, and one needs to, I think, also take into account that when we're looking at the kind of the numbers in that kind of total. Clearly, Oxford, you know, as a kind of a large provider dealing with people outside its own area, is, you know, always comes up with kind of larger numbers, and that in itself, I think, also affects percentages and various other things. So yes, great that we moved on a milestone, but clearly still not good enough. But Lisa, just thanks so much for kind of putting all this stuff together. Kath, you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that again, we're looking at still all English providers 66%, which is low, and I agree that something needs to be done. I think the question for me is when are we going to say that there isn't an effect of the pandemic? And I just wondered whether we did talk about workforce in previous meetings for other people to be aware of, about workforce issues, and you know, the standards we're trying to reach. I've been on these meetings now for a number of years. Are we ever going to get there? So should we take a realistic approach and you know, lower the standards, and expectation of patients is lowered? Obviously not, but you know, we need to be able to get these figures up higher, because again, we're looking at, for some of these, 35% odd that aren't getting their treatment within 62 days. So, you know, we need to perhaps have a few cases to know, you know, what is it that's stopping it? Is it workforce? Is it lack of medical professionals? You know, is it the treatments aren't available? Anyway, there's lots of reasons, but yeah, thank you.
No, Kath, I think you're absolutely right. There are lots of reasons, and I think we could, if we had more time, in fact, maybe we need to come back to it at a future meeting. I think we could explore a bit more, perhaps, what the various kind of components are. But one certainly, you know, in terms of what I'm aware of, one certainly can't underestimate the impact of workforce issues, recruitment, retention. So as well as the whole kind of issue about backlogs and number of cases, the very kind of, you know, fact of not perhaps having the workforce we need to engage, I think is not insignificant. Now, clearly we're in the middle of a general election, and one doesn't know what sort of changes there might be if there's a change of government. But I think you're absolutely right that we need to, in a sense, keep banging on about how do we make this better. No matter how well it looks in terms of the statistical movement, that things are improving. And we can't carry on forever talking about, do you know, the pandemic effect. Andrew?
Yes, I mean, I'm looking at that obviously with prostate cancer hat on to some degree, and I'm kind of thinking, you know, do we show up particularly in those, which I can't tell because it's not broken down by tumour site, and if we did, is there something that we as a support group could do that might, you know, help? And then one of the things with prostate cancer is actually choosing your treatment, and that does, you know, if a patient takes a long time to choose their treatment, perhaps because they haven't got the right information, that does reflect in these figures. So, you know, that sort of thought is going through my mind. But obviously I can't tell from this data, but if there was a more detailed breakdown, that, you know, some thoughts might come to mind. Okay,
Lisa, do you want to say something about the availability of more detail?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Andrew, have a look online. I obviously just pulled off what I thought would be the highlights for everyone today. I think it's worth noting that this obviously is verified as of April, so I'm not sharing any uncertainties. This is, you know, because as we're aware, there are some obviously referrals that don't turn into cancer, and that's one of the things that obviously the data team are really conscious about when they share information. They don't want the trust to look in a position where actually it's not a true reflection of what, you know, the figures are. But definitely go and have a look, because it may well be that urology is broken down into it. I didn't have a look myself. Data isn't my subject matter expertise, so if there are any sort of relevant questions, if it's not answered, as Kath said, through the direct email, then perhaps we could propose some questions being sent to our data team for next time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got any comments or questions with this before we move on?
I noticed Vicky had her hand up before, Andrew, and then she popped it down.
Yeah, sorry. And Paul, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. I just wondered,
sorry,
is
go
there
ahead.
any... Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thanks. I was just wondering if there's any more detailed analysis of those who were treated within 62 days. To, for example, look at the characteristics of the person. So why was somebody treated within 62 days, for example? Is there any further analysis to say in that example or in those examples the system worked perfectly as it should have done, or the interaction between patient and clinicians was... I just wonder if there's any more analysis that tells us a bit more.
I mean, I couldn't be absolutely certain, but I suspect not, because you know, I think what we're talking about is looking at qualitative information as opposed to numbers, and that's kind of much more difficult to capture. Vicky, you've had your hand up. Vicky,
I was just going to sort of say, I think this is a great overview, but I think it needs to be, as we know, drilled into, and we need to look for reasons, and also unless we sort of understand why these things are happening, we can't really do anything about it. So I think it is a case of looking deeper into these figures and sort of understanding what the issues are and then addressing those. So that was really it.
Okay, Kath, you want to come back on this?
Yeah, I was just going to say there seems to be a general theme and trend here that people are very interested in knowing what's going on with these figures. And I just wonder whether we as a group of patients could possibly take on board, I don't know, the cancers that people are have had or been carers of, and perhaps do the drilling ourselves with maybe help from the TVCA or in conjunction with, so that we can get some help to get some of the answers ourselves rather than expecting TVCA to actually do it for us. So, you know, be responsible for getting some answers ourselves. I don't know what Lisa thinks about that, and it may be to have another meeting offline, but there seems to be a general interest to get to the bottom of why these figures don't seem to be moving very quickly. So thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Kath. Any further comments or thoughts before we move on?
Tabitha's got her hand up. I don't know if you can see that from your end.
I'm not quite sure what's happened. Yeah, carry on.
And then Annie.
Hello there. Hi, everyone. So I'm coming at this from actually a very different perspective. The figures are really interesting, and I think I agree with everybody that drilling down is going to be so valuable and useful across, you know, the individual tumours. But I think that there is another thing that will have a great impact on when people actually come to a diagnosis. It's the period before. And the period before being diagnosed with cancer for me was a very grey area because there wasn't enough cancer awareness information out there. And I think that an increasing awareness, having more funding towards raising awareness across all cancers, not just the I don't know how they're described, the main ones. You see a lot of traction because breast cancer is really pink and pretty and it's out there, and prostate cancer is now being given a lot more focus. But I think some of the lesser cancers, if we can increase that whole awareness, we're going to foster more knowledge on cancer generally. People will hopefully present later, because I've seen the statistics around late presentation at A&E, and all of these things impact the figures that we're talking about today. If people are presenting earlier, then they may require less invasive treatments, their pathways may be very, very different, and there is that whole knock-on effect. It was just an observation. I don't know how you guys all feel about it and whether there is any impact from any of that, but that's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Annie, I think you've had your hand up for a little while.
Thank you. Yes. First of all, could somebody email me how I get to find out the individual tumour groups, please? Because I'm still very new to this, and I'm getting completely lost sometimes with all the technical stuff. But I want to say a bit about lung cancer, because certainly I think that where we found a problem is the radiology, and I think there is a shortage of radiologists, and I don't know what impact that has on other cancers as well. And I'd certainly be very interested in finding out why. There's also the fact that we have biopsies that take quite a while to come back to find out what treatment we should have. So, but I think what the person said just now was very helpful, and also what the other lady said. I've forgotten. I don't know everybody's names at the moment either, but I think that it would be very helpful to put this together and to see exactly what comes out in all the different tumour groups.
Okay, thanks, Annie. I'm sure Lisa will be able to help with your technology issues if you want to follow up afterwards in terms
Thank
of.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Claire?
Hi everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Claire, and I'm the Workforce Programme Manager, Senior Programme Manager within the Alliance. I was just going to say, I think if we spoke to the trusts, each individual trust probably does have better data on why they had those breaches and why people weren't treated within that time frame. But I think if you're going to ask them for that, particularly with the pressures they're under at the moment, it's why. What is your ask? What are you going to do with that once you know it, and what is your plan going to be? If you're going to put an ask into them, there's got to be some sort of positive output that you're going to do with it. But I think that to answer your question why the figures aren't changing, I think there are multiple reasons involved as well. I think we've got things like the junior doctors' strikes aren't helping on some of those things. We've also got things like when King Charles announced he had prostate cancer, the number of people referring themselves in with possible symptoms of that went through the roof. So that creates a huge then bubble of people that have to be dealt with to rule out or rule in. And it's absolutely brilliant that it got that sort of level of publicity and the amount of people that came forward after it, but then that impacts on the system again itself. So, and then we've got a lot of nursing gaps in the workforce at the minute. As you said, radiologists, we're very short on, just oncologists, general oncology consultants. They are extremely thin on the ground at the moment, almost a crisis point for us within the Alliance. So there are an awful lot of different things at the moment going on within the workforce area that make it extremely difficult. And I think that sometimes when we look at those percentages, we need to look at the numbers as well that have tracked across the last couple of years, because the percentage of people that are being seen might not change, but the number of people being seen is increasing all the time, but without a huge increase in the size of the workforce that we've got to manage it. So I think if you've got a piece of work you think that you can do and you want to do around trying to help that and help from a patient perspective of what patients can do to get their treatment more quickly, then I think that's an excellent thing. But I just thought I'd sort of give you that general overview of the situation as it is at the moment.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. I think just that just reinforces the earlier point, particularly that Kath raised about how we have a multiple, number of kind of contributing factors, and I think it's important to be aware of that. But I'm also reminded, in my wearing my cynical hat of the classic, lies, damn lies, and statistics. So we all want to, we've got some important information here which we haven't been able to delve into before. So I think it's a question of us keeping on top of that. Okay, moving on now. Lisa, we're, as often happens with the NHS, things get changed and different parts get restructured, and this is exactly what we're talking about at the moment. Lisa, I'll just hand over to you and then I'll make a brief comment if I may.
Okay, thanks, William. So yes, as part of our wider NHS England restructure, the South East regional team has changed some of its aligned services. So it used to report into the medical directorate, as in Cancer Performance used to, and now it's going to be in the Performance and Improvement Chief Operating Officer Directorate. However, how this affects us is that there's an additional element that from the 1st of July, so as of Monday next week, we're going to be hosted by Bob ICB. So that's the Berkshire, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Integrated Care Board. We will still be accountable to the South East regional team, but everything will be sort of resting under sort of the Bob umbrella. So we will be sending out obviously new meeting invites, etc. for these meetings and obviously anything else related to the TVCA, but it will probably be badged with Bob identity rather than, we'll still have TVCA, don't get me wrong, as an identity, but it won't be NHS England, which is currently who we're hosted by. It'll be through Bob. The other sort of element to that as well is that we have had an interim managing director for the sort of last number of months, probably actually a year through different roles. The permanent position to replace our interim managing director, the role has been advertised and applications closed earlier in June. 17th I've put there, and so interviews are likely to be next month. And I just wanted to, thank, and I'm sure you're happy for me to pass on, thanks to Judith Ratledge, who has been our interim director for the time being over the last couple of months. And obviously she's going to be staying with us until the new MD is in post. Okay, thanks, Lisa. I mean, at the end of the proverbial day, hopefully this doesn't make a damn bit of difference as far as patients are concerned. But I think it's always helpful to have some kind of understanding of the import of structural changes. I think the most significant effect has been on Lisa and her colleagues in going through all this kind of thing about moving from one part of the structure and another, and we all know the kind of HR kind of stuff that's often involved with that. So well done, Lisa, for getting through it. And I hope things are, clearly from the 1st of July, we'll cut some, keep going, and as strongly as you have been, Thank you, William. I was asked in a meeting the other day about what difference it will make. I think you've raised a valid point there about patients. And I think probably from within the Bob IC umbrella, we'll be able to have a whole system-wide approach. Thames Valley have obviously tried to do that to date, but perhaps there'll be a little bit more muscle involved. I don't know. It will be what we will be. We will see as of the 1st of July. I'm maybe surmising here. So, yeah, we'll see. Watch this space. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Anyone got any quick thoughts or comments on that before we move on to the next item? Okay, Lisa, you to kick off again. Thank you. Okay, so at our last meeting in March, we talked about activities that we would like to take forward as subgroups of the PPG. So there were 4 in total. We looked about work of carers, CPES information, community engagement and promotion of patient involvement. So community engagement and promotion of patient involvement, I think that falls quite nicely under the TVCA communication strategy and engagement strategy. Again, that's going to be talked about in a little more depth later on in the agenda. But I just wanted to highlight the other 2 at the moment, and then I'm going to bring Claire in to talk about some workforce projects that she's got coming up. So in respect to the carers element, there was a patient experience lead network meeting that I attended on the 21st of May, but also Kim attended virtually with us, and Kath gave her input from both perspectives of being carers into that group and looking at the activities that NHS England currently have underway, what it means to be a carer. There was a presentation given by Rachel Garton, who's actually the NHS England Experience of Care Senior Manager, and she gave some context around carers identification, the rights that carers have, legislation, resources available, etc. So there were sort of comments made that at the moment there's estimated to be sort of, I think, 10.6 million carers within England, according to Carers UK. And that actually is an estimated billions that is being saved money-wise for the NHS due to them actually being unpaid carers. So family members caring for loved ones, whether or not, a wife, a husband, a partner, etc. They aren't, they're just doing what they do in their family life. They're not actually recognised as a paid carer. So going forward, I think what we might do is actually, as part of that sort of patient experience network group, which is myself and other counterparts in other alliances, take a national group activity forward rather than just, individually, but certainly using the voice for Kim and Kath from this group as party to that. The CPES group, we met on or subgroup, should I say, we met on the 29th of May. There were trust representatives there as well as other stakeholders. William was there representing the patient voice. Unfortunately, Kath couldn't be there. She had other commitments, but both wanting to take this project forward. And we looked at sort of the established resources that currently are being shared with patients, and where obviously the gaps are as to how we can make sure that there's a consistency of information across the patch. So that's what I wanted to say on those 4. It wasn't necessarily on the agenda, but if I could bring Claire in to talk about sort of the workforce projects and obviously how that might tie in with some of our activities for PPG members as well. Thank you.
Okay, Claire.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, I won't say you forgot all about me. So I had a chat with Lisa a couple of weeks ago because there are a couple of projects coming online within the workforce space, and I think it's really important if we can get your help with them, actually, because I think we won't be able to do them properly without it. So one of them's just hit a wee step back in where the funding we hope to come from isn't, so I've got to go and explore alternative venues for money. But that aside, project 1 is around and I don't know if any of you saw it, that greater I think it's Barks have done a video for patients recently within breast cancer care. And what we want to do, the lead nurses and the cancer managers identified other areas, key cancers, tumour sites, if you will, where this type of video would really help patients. And it's a video. So when you go and you get your set of instructions, this is what you need to do before you come for your colonoscopy or something like that, if they're investigating prostate or anything. If you get a set of instructions or something, or you sit down with a nurse to do it, then you're sent away, and then you may still have questions in your head. What we want to do is create a set of videos that people can access then either online or on their phone, and it tells them that information, and it does a walkthrough of everything that's going to either potentially happen before, during, or what your care is that you might need to do for yourself after something. so that you've got a resource that you can, a little video that you can go to as many times as you need to answer any of the questions that you might have. The reason we want to do that is that the one for breast has worked really well with patients and meant that patients feel much more prepared when they come in for their treatment. And it has also freed up a lot of nursing time so that they can concentrate on actually delivering the treatment itself and being with the patient. Sorry, my dogs are barking at something. One sec. So it has a twofold benefit, hopefully, for patients and for staff. The ones that have been identified, and I want to check these with you, that you think that these make sense to you as well, are where they would be of most benefit is in sarcoma, in colorectal, in radiotherapy, and then an all options and urology. So those are the ones where there's a lot of stuff the nursing teams thought people have a lot of stuff to think about before they come in, and then things they have to remember to look after themselves with after. So they're what they've identified where they think they will be of most help. And my ask to you on those is if you can have a think about them and see if you think those are the key ones we can make a difference with for patients. And then if any of you will be happy to be part of those videos when we make them as well, to talk about your experience within one of those cancer settings, and sort of help with the walkthrough on it. And if you don't want to, or we haven't got anybody with any of those particular cancers, if we can identify some new patients, new people, everyone's a patient at some point in their life, aren't they? If we can identify new people who are patients at the moment that are happy to be part of it, is whether you would like to sort of not chaperone them, but sort of mentor them, buddy up with them a little bit so that there's somebody else alongside them, just for a bit of moral support if it's the first time they've done anything along this line, as far as patient involvement is concerned. So that's my first project for you.
Okay. Anyone, any kind of immediate comments? I mean, I think what we're going to have to do with these is that just a bit of a follow-up, because yes, clearly Claire's sharing quite a lot of information. I think we need to have some of this kind of written down so that people specifically respond. Yes, Alice, you want to come in?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. I think is another hand before me.
No, okay, carry on. I'll come on to
okay.
Sorry.
I like the idea of the video and things that I think, but also I'm very concerned in the sense that there is groups of people that we are not reaching out to, who needs to be reached out to, like the diverse communities, because prostate, cancer is very high among them, but they are very seldom heard. How are we going to do that? It's also something that we need to consider. Because prostate cancer is very high among the Black communities, and different cancers among the ethnic communities. But also there are communities like the learning disability communities whom they can't even speak for themselves because they don't know what the signs are. So I do think there's a lot of education stuff that needs to be done about cancer.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, you want to come in?
It was just an interim while Claire was getting herself sorted, but I wanted to share with the group that Lanny Hellings actually from OUH has, that's the reference that Claire was making with regards to the creation of a patient video. It's a 15-minute video around the treatment of breast cancer and what to expect. Now, unfortunately, Lanny and her patient reps couldn't attend this particular meeting, but she is going to come to our September meeting. So as part of the minutes from this, I think it would be useful if I shared that link with you so that you can have a look at it at your leisure to see what was involved for her. I'm not saying that we would replicate it, but it just gives you sort of a little bit of a flavour of what sort of Claire's mentioning about the recreation of the other videos in those specific areas she's mentioned.
Okay, thank you. And Saba, you got a hand up?
Hello all, thank you. I come at this with an ovarian cancer diagnosis, but also because I'm of South Asian heritage. Completely agree with Alice. There are lots of sub-communities that may not find the videos useful only because of language, only because they're digitally poor. So subtitles would be great, different languages, translations, there's all of that to consider. I do a lot of work with a number of charities, Target Ovarian Cancer, Black Women Rising, Macmillan, and I do lots of sort of like the media promotion, videos, stuff, side of things. Producing these things takes a lot of time, effort and money. And a lot of these charities are already doing a lot of work in this space. Rather than reinvent the wheel, would collaboration not be another avenue that we could take? It would be saving the Alliance money. It'd be saving the NHS money. I know Macmillan themselves are currently working on a very large project to do something very, very similar, because I'm actually on the steering group for that with them. And it is all about a patient's cancer journey, right from diagnosis all the way through to covering things like appointments, scanxiety, support, help on finances, on parking, on NHS prescriptions. So, I mean, that's the only comment that I have, is that co-production, collaboration, there's the scope for that.
Okay, thank you, Saba. Peter. You're still on mute, Peter. No, still can't hear you.
I think just sort of feeding back to what Saba, the comment she made, I certainly think from a Thames Valley wide, definitely collaboration is the way forward. We would probably, if we're producing these videos, we would have it then shared with all of the trusts to obviously utilise, with their patient forums as well. Interestingly, Saba, I introduced your name virtually to our new health and equalities lead yesterday, and obviously mentioned about the activities and stuff that you were doing. So I think probably he's going to reach out with you in Salmon to have kind of an introductory call to kind of look a little bit more into certainly the ovarian cancer awareness that I know obviously you're really passionate about.
Okay, thanks. Alex, you want to have a word?
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point, when this collaboration is taking place, don't forget the contribution that the support groups can make to this. If they've got access to the materials, the videos and all the rest of it, we can make a big difference in getting that out.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, Claire, if I can come back to you and you can sort of briefly summarise your couple of other projects you want to mention. Claire, are you still there?
I think she might have dropped off.
All right, okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Peter, are you connected?
Yeah,
we can hear you. Well done, great.
Can you hear me?
Technology.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Carry on.
I'm sorry about that. I just wanted clarification. You were talking about the videos. I didn't hear the magic word head and neck cancer spoken. I don't know if you were considering that as part of it or not. I just needed clarification on that.
Well, I think in Claire's absence, it's probably difficult to clarify. But I mean, one of the things I was going to do was ask Claire if she could drop an email to Lisa, just kind of summarising what she said, because she did identify a number of cancer types that she was looking for a particular input on. But she also raised the question about, are they missing anything? I think that's a good example of one they might be missing. So Lisa, maybe if we get Claire to confirm what it is they're looking at, and with a very clear indication of what it is, what input they're looking for.
And I think the link in was psychological support as well, because I know, Pete, with regards to head and neck, that's a key flag that you probably want to make around videos and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. Psychological issues are paramount. Absolutely very, very important.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay, moving on then to item 6, we've got to focus on local activity in Berkshire West. So, Vicky, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. How do you want me to share the slides? Are you going to do this for me, Lisa?
Are you happy for me to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, welcome. My name is Vicky Randall, and I am the chair of the Berkshire West Cancer Patient Partnership, which represents the Royal Berkshire Hospital. So, next slide, please. What is it? Well, it was established originally in 2019 to enable the patient voice to be heard within the trust, and gives the opportunity to patients to engage with health professionals, and highlights the work that we can do together, and looks at ways in which we can resolve issues. It's made up of volunteers and that have been patients themselves, and therefore they can draw on their experiences, much like this group actually. So it's a very similar structure. The overall purpose, next slide please, is really to have a stronger patient voice and represent the views of patients who have experienced cancer, much like this group. And it feeds into the different sort of clinical commissioning groups and different organisations that are part of that. And working parties come out of that, and we work around specific projects, much like you're sort of starting to put together as a process. The next slide, please. The role of chair is just to facilitate the meetings, much like William is today. Engage with health professionals to further the work of the partnership. So I have regular meetings within the hospital to work with patient members to deliver positive outcomes. So that's about looking at work within the smaller groups, and to give a collective voice to patients through communications representing the partnership. So a stronger voice through collective representation effectively, and to act as a conduit, bringing together other cancer networks to collaborate and look at best practice across regions. So for instance, that's why I'm on this meeting today, to see what everyone's up to so that we can work together and join dots. So in terms of the objectives of the partnership, it is about focusing on our current projects. I've sort of not new in post, but fairly new in post. So I'm just trying to look at where we are, what we've done, where we need to go really, and also looking at some of the strategies for some of the other groups involved in cancer care within the region, so that we can align with those, so that we're not reinventing the wheel, as Claire mentioned earlier. We don't want to be doing that. So that's our objectives really at the moment. Next slide, please. And that just reinforces the fact that co-production and a more strategic approach is very much needed really, so that we are not all duplicating things and we are all working together and improving outcomes for future patients. Next slide, please. So in terms of how we structure our approach, we have project areas, and at the moment we have 6 active projects, and then we ask our volunteers to become part of those projects. So we have volunteer groups for each project. We have 4 central meetings over the year, much like this, and each volunteer will support a particular project area. So one being, for example, the new website that the hospital are building at the moment. That's one project area that needs quite a lot of input, because there's a lot of information that needs to go on there, and the patient voice is very important around that. And we have other project areas as well, such as improving the environment within the hospital and various other areas that we need to look at as patients. Next slide, please. We are at the moment doing a recruitment campaign. So we are looking for more patients to join us. So if anyone is keen, then do get in touch. So obviously, the more representatives we have across a wider range of cancers, the better. because we get a better view from the community in that way. So we are encouraging people to join the Berkshire West CPP at the moment. So do feel free to help us do that if you would like to. Next slide, please. So essentially, I'd sort of get to this point and was going to ask if anyone had any questions on that particular part of the presentation at all. I mean, I don't know if you want to maybe come back at the end, maybe think about that. But that was my sort of key to come to the end of that bit. Now I'm going to tell you about the other bit. So the other hat I have is the Cancer Support Network. So I run the project for Involve Community Services. And actually, you could go to the next slide. And you will get these slides so you can read them at your leisure rather than me just reading them to you, because I don't think we've got time for that today. So essentially it is a community resource, and I always say it puts an arm around you in the community when you're affected by cancer. And we know that medical care is very good, but community care can be a little bit lacking, and we reach across Woking and Bracknell boroughs to support people in a lot of different ways. Next slide, please. And this is more and more necessary as we look at some of the statistics for the future, which actually I got this from the Macmillan website. It's quite scary, really, when you look at those statistics to see how cancer is going to increase as we move forward into future years. And obviously that's going to impact on everything else as well, and all the issues that we've just been talking about, such as workforce challenges, etc. Next slide, please. So what does the Cancer Support Network do? Well, it is basically a holistic range of support, and these are the different elements that makes that up. So we have meetups, both online and in person. The online element of that came in from the COVID era, really, because as we know, everyone went online, and actually that's been a benefit. So we do have a hybrid model, and that's worked really well. We do have regular coffee and chats every month, and people love those, and they just like being with each other. It's a safe space where people feel comfortable to talk about different things. And actually, we don't all sit about talking about cancer. It's not awful. It can be quite jovial, actually, surprisingly. We also have expert speakers every month, so we do try and keep people well and educate them around a lot of issues with cancer. That could be nutrition, it could be sleep, it could be finance, it can be a range of things. We have our health and wellbeing events, which we have a range of those, so that keeps you active and it also keeps you socially engaged. So we do things like Nordic walking, which is that picture there, and Qigong, which is a bit like Tai Chi. We do creative workshops. We essentially bring people together and give them opportunities to do different things. And as part of the network, they are free to members. We also have our peer-to-peer support, which is a bit like a buddy system. We have volunteers that we call Cancer Champions. I can tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And we have our online support, which is 24/7, and that's through a WhatsApp group. So people can reach out at any time of day if they're feeling a bit vulnerable, which quite often they are. That's also quite useful for things like they may say, for example, have had radiotherapy and have a sore spot on their skin. They can reach out and say, I've got a sore spot on my skin. Has anyone got any idea about what I can put on it? You know, what creams would you use? That sort of thing. So it's actually really handy because there's nowhere else that you can actually really do that unless you have that type of support group. And we have signposting information. So that's regular newsletters with all sorts of information that comes out regularly, which is useful to people with cancer. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Vicky, can I just hurry you along a bit?
Yeah. So the peer support group is basically made up of volunteers. They have their own experience of cancer. They are trained, and you can see there that it's very professional. Next slide, please. And obviously the network is very important because we are supporting people with cancer. And I've kind of that's just reiterating what I've said, so you can read that at your leisure. Next slide, please. And that's how you access the network. So that's about how to do that. So we receive referrals from professionals, self-referrals, and social care people as well. So there's a range of different ways in which you can get in touch with the network. Next slide, please. That's just a question. And yeah, next slide, please. And then just a bit about me. So I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is actually a blood cancer, which actually gets ignored as well as the head and neck, obviously. So we need to raise that. So blood cancer tends to be a little bit on the outside of things, which is quite interesting. But so we'll have to address that. But you can see my two hats there. One was horrible and the other one was much nicer when I went to Ascot last week. So that was much nicer hat. But yeah, that kind of finishes it off really. So I don't know if anyone has any questions around that. But obviously, if you have the slides, you can get in touch because you'll have contact details.
Okay, thanks, Vicky. We'll just take a few minutes to deal with some questions. But I think what I would just sort of say to kick off, I think this is just a really important demonstration about how we need to share what's happening locally. So if other members have kind of thoughts or they want to have an opportunity to say what you know today, please flag it up and we'll deal with it at future meetings. Peter, I think you've had your hand up first. You still there? Peter, do you have any question? You have a question?
Sorry, Peter Glass here. Vicky's been doing some very good work with Chris Cowap on recruitment, and I noticed at the last meeting that her counterpart Emma Dowie represents Great Western and Oxfordshire, while Chris is the Macmillan lead for Berks and Bucks. So I presume this is fantastic that we have Macmillan representation for just about the whole of our area.
Okay, thanks. I'll take that as a comment rather than a question. Annie?
Yes, I'm interested in this 24/7 helpline that you have at Vicky, and who staffs it and what sort of things come up, because the biggest thing that I know people have problems with is scanxiety, and that's at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I wondered how what that was responded to and who deals with it.
Well, I monitor it. And we haven't actually had anyone at 3 in the morning, but we do get evening conversations, and it varies really. It can be busy and it can be quiet. It just depends. But all sorts of things have come up around. Yeah, we have had the scanxiety. We have had people worried about finding things again. There's all sorts of. There's everything you could imagine that has come up in that group. And I do monitor that. And if I need to take a conversation offline, then we do that as well. Okay,
thanks, Vicky. Alice?
Hi, Vicky. I'm Alice Kunyupi-Clifton. I'm the lead officer for Healthwatch Reading and Wokingham. And what's been quite interesting is the fact that we've never heard from anybody that has any experience of services. So it would be nice for us to understand what are the barriers that you have. But the thing that I'm asking out is maybe share with us your information so that we can put it on our websites and things like that to share, because on top of Reading and Wokingham, I've got a colleague in West Berkshire as well. But Simon, who was also in this meeting, who's left, is also part of the PPG. He's doing a big project on standardizing the PPGs in Berkshire West. So that's another place where we can turn around and show what you are doing as well. So I do think there's an element whereby you could use Healthwatch differently too.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, and that is important to note, and that is part of what we're trying to do, is collaborate and work in partnership with different organisations.
Okay, thank you. Vicky, thank you very much for that. It's been very helpful, very illuminating. And as Vicky flagged up, we'll be sharing the slides, so you'll have the opportunity to peruse things in a bit more detail. Thank you very much. Okay, going to move on then to the next item, which is focusing on communications.
William, if I can just interrupt, sorry, I noticed that Saba had her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Sorry, I don't know what's happening with my machine today. I'm missing a few hands. Saba, sorry, come in.
That's okay. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information. It's been really enlightening. I wasn't even aware that half of those services were available. I come again at this with my South Asian hat on. Are the services that you provide culturally appropriate? And are you able to also signpost people, based on their ethnicity and cultural background and religious beliefs? Because it is really important. As someone, who's been on that cancer roller coaster, my culture and my background played a huge part in how I wanted help and support.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any barriers at all in that respect, but we don't focus on it either, if you see what I mean. Everyone is treated the same, but if we do have language barriers or anything like that, we would do something about that. But we haven't actually had that issue as such. But then we do also know Nisha at the Reading Cancer Champions, who works closely with hard to reach groups. So I would probably reach out if I did have issues and talk to her about that.
Okay, thanks, Saba. Thanks, Vicky.
Lovely. No, thank you, Vicky. And I was just wanting to say thank you, and I'd love to be able to help and support in any way that I can. So I will hopefully reach out to you after the meeting.
Great, thanks. That's good.
Great opportunities for making connections. Okay, Nikki, you're on.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I think there was a slide up earlier. So my name's Nikki Malin. I'm head of communications and engagement with South Central and West CSU, and have been working with Thames Valley Cancer Alliance since the start of the year on some of the kind of business as usual comms and engagement, and more recently helping to develop a communications and engagement strategy, which is why I'm here speaking to you today. I've also got another couple of colleagues that are working with me on this. So there's Jess Bishop and my colleague Joe Page. So you might see them hovering in the background. I can't see their faces, but they are there. They're not shady interlopers that shouldn't be on the call, is what I'm trying to say. So I just wanted to thank you for your support in this so far, because I know Lisa sent out a link to a survey we've been running to support this work, and we've had a really, really good response from you. So thank you for that. And it's been really helpful and really useful seeing some of the comments that you've made. I thought I would just start by giving a really brief introduction of what we're trying to do, just in case you haven't had a chance to absorb what we've put on the oh, hold on, I'm trying to put this on slideshow, but there's something in the way, so I do apologize. It doesn't seem to want me to get to it, so I apologize for the way this might look. Oh, there, it's appeared now. Sorry about that. Slideshow from beginning. Right, hopefully you can see that on full screen now.
You can, yes.
Brilliant. So basically, why is this work being done? What's it all about? Well, as an alliance, that means working across different groups, different individuals, and really, really important to have that agreed sense of purpose and aims in order to achieve whatever you identify to be as your goals collectively. And understanding that one of the key kind of rationale for Cancer Alliances is delivering that transformation of cancer services and ultimately securing better outcomes, means keeping people informed and engaged, and also providing opportunities for them to influence what that alliance does. And I have to say, I've been sort of hovering in the background of the call for the last hour, and it's been absolutely brilliant being able to hear some of the things that you've been discussing, and some of the ways that you've got involved in this journey that we're all on. And so I just want to thank you for the opportunity to have a bit of an earwig into what you've been talking about for the last hour. It's been really helpful. So in order to understand what needs to go into the communications and engagement strategy, we've been working across the piece to understand who are the best people to speak to and the best way to achieve this. And obviously that's why we're here today, because you are amongst the best people to speak to help Thames Valley Cancer Alliance achieve what it wants to achieve. And we're looking to have a strategy ready for presentation at some point in the next few weeks, basically. So far we've met with the primary care call group, the cancer delivery group. We had a really good discussion with Patrick a few weeks ago, with Lisa and a lady called Cherry Jones, who's running a Cancer Champions Network in Swindon. Some of you may have heard of Cherry. We're also trying to meet with cancer leads in the trusts and comms representatives from systems and the third sector, and obviously a wider representative group of patients, such as yourselves. And I've already mentioned we've developed that online engagement portal. So if you haven't had a chance to go in and respond to some of those open questions that we've posted on there, by all means, please do. I know Lisa's sent out the link to everybody. And as part of our work, we're also looking at the existing communications channels, such as the website, the bulletin, social media activity. Plus, and that's part of the work we're doing with the leads in the trusts and the ICBs, identifying those channels that we can borrow. I thought it was really interesting earlier, somebody saying, are we the right people to be doing this particular thing? Aren't there other people that are doing it? And yeah, very much about, if it already exists, why reinvent it? So I think that's a really important point. And then a quick overview of how to participate today. So obviously sharing your thoughts as part of today's discussion, but as part of that, we're going to run a Menti poll, and my colleague Jess will be posting the details of that up in shortly once I've stopped hogging the screen. But please do feel free to put comments in the chat. And obviously, like I say, please use the online engagement portal as well. It's there as an opportunity for you to share your views, and obviously will be treated confidentially. So Jess, if you could
yes, I'll give it a go.
So on the Menti poll, I don't know, I'm sure some of you have experienced Menti polls or similar polls in previously, but you can access it either through your mobile or you can access it on your laptop, and it will come up as a pop-up for you in order for you to participate. Have we got the code?
Yeah, so it's 37486006.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, it's in the chat. So that's excellent. Oh, it looks like some of you have already been able to get in. So that's great. So yeah, so this is in a way, it's a bit of a classic warm-up question, and for us to check that the technology is working. But it's also really interesting to understand, even from the first sort of few minutes of today's call, understanding there are some people who are completely new to the group, completely new to Thames Valley Cancer Alliance. But equally, I understand there are some people with kind of more established experience of working with the Cancer Alliance. So it's really good to have that kind of cross section of views. So yeah, and it seems a pretty even split, with a good boost in the middle of people that have been involved for a reasonable amount of time. So great, Thank you. Shall we, has everybody had a chance to respond? I didn't do a head count, so I'm not sure how many people there are on the call today, but maybe if we move to the next question.
We've got 22 people on the call, so.
Okay, right. So that's a good guide. Thank you very much, William. So, okay. So what made you want to become a patient representative for Thames Valley Cancer Alliance? So this is about understanding what kind of motivated you to become part of the alliance, you know, how you heard about it, you know, what inspired you about getting involved in the alliance as opposed to other available opportunities that might be open to you. And obviously I appreciate from some of what I've heard today already that some of you are hydra-headed, if I can put it that way, in that you are actually representing a number of different groups, organisations and involvement opportunities. So great.
Okay, any other comments people want to put in? Just take another minute or two.
Just a reminder, you can submit more than one if you want to. If you have a lot to say.
And I should add, obviously, we will be using the stuff you share with us today to sort of formulate the strategy. So every comment is sacred and valid. Peter, have you got, is it a question for me?
I'm so sorry, it might not be a question, just to say that Lisa,
okay.
Alex and I are going to the urology clinical alliance group on face-to-face next week. And if you look at these surgeons' websites, you see that they have the opportunity to earn could be over $1 million a year as private surgeons. And the banter between them is absolutely fantastic. And I strongly recommend the experience to anyone.
Okay, thank you for that advertisement, Peter.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to put anything on this before we move on to the next slide? No, okay, do you want to move on then?
Okay, so yeah, next, do you want to move on to the next one, Jess? So, do you feel your involvement makes a difference to cancer care in the Thames Valley? And please explain your answer, either positive, negative or neutral. And I think what we're trying to establish is a sense of, so you know, you've got involved in Thames Valley Cancer Alliance. Has it matched what you're expecting? And not necessarily whether those expectations were high or low, but is it what you imagined it would be? Are there other things perhaps that you were expecting to be part of by being part of the Cancer Alliance? Yeah, too soon to say. This is my first meeting. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Okay. And I think it's what's been really interesting, Joe, Jess and I do talk about this a lot, and I've mentioned it to Lisa and Lindell, is it's amazing how much consistency there has been in some of the issues that people have, or points that people have made, you know, across all sort of different types of groups. And I find that really interesting. And I keep sort of saying to Lindell, it kind of proves that actually there's something happening that is right, because people are all pulling in the same direction. And it's really interesting how common the experience is across the diverse groups of people that we've spoken to.
Okay, I think there's a really interesting mixture of responses here from kind of yes, very positive, and sort of no. And I think one of my responsibilities as chair is, how do I respond to people not feeling that we're doing enough? And I think that's I would want to revisit. But it's important to get this kind of understanding and range of views.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can't see the whole comment, but I noticed somebody's working more closely with primary care, and I know that has come up in previous discussions that we've had. So again, really interesting, the common thing. And I was really just whilst everybody's completing their comments, it was really interesting the discussion you had earlier about the data, because I listened to a similar conversation about data at the cancer delivery group as well. So really, really interesting that, again, you're all of the same mind. So that makes our job easy, because you're all pulling in the same direction, and that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we, conscious of time, so shall we move?
Carry on, yep.
And I stress again, if you think, oh God, I wish I'd made that point, but it was too fast, do go to the portal, because there's an opportunity for you. They're open questions, and you don't have to fill in all the open questions. You can focus on the ones that you're particularly interested in or exercised about. So by all means do dig in. And I think Joe or Jess, am I right in thinking you can complete the survey more than once?
Yeah, you should be
or
able
have
to.
I made that up? Yeah.
Shall I repost the link in the chat just so people have it to hand?
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Yeah,
sure.
Please, Joe. Yeah. So what could Thames Valley Cancer Alliance do to recruit more patient representatives and make it easier for them to get involved? So Maggie's, I've heard of that. That's a support cancer charity, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
So that, please put names against the actions in the MOM. Peter, I've just seen your comment. I wasn't sure. Sorry, I'm not clear what that's referring to.
Certainly, it's with a huge number of initials. Looking at the minutes of the last meeting, it's very difficult to work out. It's very easy to lose actions against oneself. I'm PMG, and I've even known meetings putting actions on a completely different person who's also PMG.
Okay. Thanks for that, Peter. You made the point earlier, so we'll try and respond to it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think this is throwing up another one of those kind of consistent points, which is there are an enormous amount of networks, organisations, groups working across the Thames Valley Cancer Alliance patch. And I actually, there are people on this call that have already heard me say this several times, so I apologise for repeating myself. But I actually did a Google search for how do I fight cancer? And it came up, there was a site that kind of basically listed myriad cancer organisations, and within a 30-mile radius of my my postcode, I live in Tame in Oxfordshire, there were 9 pages of results. There were like literally thousands of places that I could turn, and it's again, it reinforces what somebody said earlier about there are people that are doing stuff. And it's not necessarily about Thames Valley Cancer Alliance doing everything, but supporting those people that are already doing some of this. So, yeah, really interesting point about the different networks. Okay, so I think Jess, am I right? We've got one more question after this.
Yes, one more.
By the way, that response window scrolls if you want to look at the ones that go off the bottom.
Yeah.
Ah, right. So, how could Thames Valley Cancer Alliance better engage with its patient representatives? So, this is about exploring what more can be done, what could be done. Firstly to get more people involved in this group, perhaps, but also perhaps get involved in other ways, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. Being a cat lover, I don't really like that expression, but I can't think of a better way of putting it than that. So again, really interesting to hear Vicky's presentation earlier, and the different groups that Vicky's involved with, and why would people, what would make people come to Thames Valley Cancer Alliance, as well as some of the other groups that they may already belong to. Face-to-face meetings, updates. So Lisa, am I right in thinking that people in the group can subscribe to the bulletin, albeit the bulletin tends to be more focused on kind of healthcare professionals and the cancer workforce?
Yeah, that was never sort of an option in the past, but a couple of months ago we actually discussed it at this meeting, and for those that wanted to subscribe to it, they could, and a link was sent out for those just to sort of sign up.
Yes, and I think my latest one came out this morning, so if anyone hasn't signed up and wants to, please just let Lisa know. Okay, any other contributions to this?
Yeah, starting to come through now. Yeah, I think the examples of how change has been implemented, it's what's called the sort of virtuous circle, isn't it? The kind of you said we did. And it's really important to reinforce that so that people understand that, their contribution has been considered, acted upon, has ultimately led to positive change. So yeah, I think that is really, really important.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that I just verified with Jess that was our last question. So
Okay, and Jess, you put the link in the chat for people who want to follow it through who may not have completed already. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. I know that's been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but like I say, there's definitely availability for you to contribute via the survey, and I will put my email in the chat as well. So if you wanted to raise any points specifically with me or make any points, then please feel free to do that. Hang on, I'm on caps lock. That's never a good look, is it? Looks like I'm shouting. Right. There you go.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, and your colleagues for their contributions. Clearly, there's opportunities to kind of follow this up, so I would certainly encourage you to do so. I think the way we get an effective communication strategy is to incorporate as wide a range of views as possible. So
just before Nikki drops off, Nikki, I just kind of wanted to ask to share with the group next steps. So obviously Patrick, who belongs to this group, he's been obviously feeding in. There were a number of people who said that they wanted to get involved in the communication sort of patient engagement element. So again, those people, if we want to have another sort of subgroup meeting, but if you could just sort of let people know sort of what the next steps are, what your intentions are after the survey.
Yeah, so the survey is staying open for the next couple of weeks. So we were originally going to close it by the end of June, but we're going to leave it open for at least another week. We have already started sort of drafting some of what we consider to be the kind of emerging issues that we think should be incorporated into the strategy. So we're going to share those with Lyndall next week, just to verify and check that we're not heading off in a completely harebrained direction. And so we're kind of writing it as we're going along. And that's not to suggest that we predetermined what the outcomes of it are, but obviously we want to be able to sort of turn something around quite quickly in the next few weeks. So we've already started tagging and analysing some of the responses that we've got so far on the survey. So I would hope that we would have something to share by sometime in August. And I would view it as it's not a metaphorical PDF, as in once it's written, that's it. I see it very much as it is a strategy, so it's setting a direction. It's not necessarily determining every action and outcome. So I would view it very much as a kind of organic document, and very much would appreciate any feedback or views once we've arrived at the final draft.
Okay. Coming back in September to give us an update at the next PPG meeting.
Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Yeah.
Peter, you have a hand raised. Can you hear us, Peter?
Well, whilst Peter's sorting out his sound, I would also say, if you feel there is anybody outside of this group that it would be an opportunity for them to participate in the survey, by all means, do pass that link on to them. Okay. And we would very much welcome that.
Yeah, we want it as widespread as possible. Peter, are you able to do this?
Yeah. Thank you, William. Sorry, still not a question, but 45 years with Thames Water, again and again, job out of hell, time to go supermarket shelf stacking, and then the fantastic job of a lifetime came from nowhere. So Lisa, anytime you, if you ever think that you've got the job of a lifetime for me, give it a go. Just call. You know my phone number.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Offers galore. Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay, Nikki, any final comments before we wind this up, or any of your colleagues?
Yeah. No, just thank you very much all for your contributions. It's really, really helpful, and this is a conversation, so it will continue.
Okay, great. Thank
you, everyone.
Okay, so we've been reflecting a lot on or flagging up the kind of thing about opportunities, both existing ones and looking for new ones. So the next item we're going to look at is very much talking about involvement opportunities. So Rachel, are you with us?
I am. Can everybody hear and see me okay?
We can.
The signal doesn't seem too great. So if it goes a bit jittery or anything, please let me know and I'll just turn my camera off, but I shall start with my camera on. So yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am Rachel Francoise and I am the People and Communities Engagement Manager from the National Cancer Programme, which is part of NHS England. So the reason that I wanted to come and talk with you today is that we currently have 2 spaces within our Patient and Public Voices Forum, or PPV, as we love our acronyms, as I know you've already picked up on, for yourselves, from Thames Valley to join that National Cancer Programme as patient representatives. So we mainly recruit our PPV partners from within the Cancer Alliances for 2 key reasons. The first is that it gives us a really good geographical spread across the country. And the second is you already have experience and community connections within your alliances to support you within that national role. And obviously just catching the tail end of your previous conversation around surveys and reflections on engagement, this is exactly why we want you to be part of that national programme and to be able to bring that experience into it. So yes, the programme is based within NHS England, and it basically sets the national strategy and direction for cancer services throughout the country. There are a number of key work streams within the national programme that are focused on different aspects of the cancer pathway. This includes things like early diagnosis, faster diagnosis, living with and beyond cancer, innovation, primary care, treatment, and of course experience of care. And so within these work streams will be many of the services that you will have heard of and will be supporting from an alliance perspective, such as targeted lung health checks, early detection of liver cancer, BRCA, and many, many more. So ultimately, the national programme sets a direction which is then delivered via the cancer alliances. And the PPV Forum is one of the key ways in which we engage people with lived experience within those work streams. So as a PPV partner, you will have the chance to be at the cutting edge of cancer service strategy and be involved right from the very start of the conception of ideas all the way through to their fruition. You'll be given chances to be part of those programme teams, attend workshops, focus groups, and be involved in lots of other engagement activities. And the commitment can be as small or as big as you choose it to be. We can be really flexible around that. So some people might choose to get involved in just one project where they have a particular interest or experience. Others get involved in many different things across their 4-year tenure with us. So each year we hold 2 face-to-face forums where we bring together all of the PPV partners from across the country. And as part of that, you will meet and hear from the National Director for Policy and Strategy, David Fitzgerald. And you'll get a chance to engage in various workshops and different presentations. We pay all travel expenses, including booking your trains on your behalf. And where necessary, we will also provide you with overnight accommodation to make sure that you're not trying to get to somewhere in the day and then it will be really, really tiring for you. So there are lots of ways in which we will support you within your role, including training, such as peer leadership. We give out tech as well if you need it to help you to be able to engage with us, as I know we all love to face-to-face, but it's very difficult from a national. I mean, it's difficult from a regional, but national is even more complex to get everyone together face-to-face all the time. So we do support with tech and offering training around that. There's monthly coffee catch-up so you can get to know your other PPV partners. There's coaching and lots of other things that we will offer to you, because we acknowledge that it isn't just about taking. We want to give something back to you as well. So for roles, there's 4 levels of engagement, which I'm not going to go into today because it's really complicated, but we can look at that more if you were interested in getting involved. But for level 4, which is our most senior level of involvement, where you will sit within decision-making forums and be a key player within that decision-making forum, there is an involvement fee attached, which is £75 for half a day and £150 per full day, which obviously you don't have to take, but lots of people obviously do opt to take that because we feel, obviously it's reflecting on what you are bringing as part of that core member. So all we need from you is for you to be comfortable in speaking up in meetings and programs that you join, and also bringing back into your alliance what you are working on and anything that you feel would be of interest to the alliance as well. We also ask that where possible, you help us to facilitate wider engagement with communities that are local to you. But again, we will help you with this. We're not going to just obviously expect that you're just going to be able to go off and kind of make that all happen by yourself. We do appreciate that that is a bit more complicated. So really hoping that some of you will be interested in joining us. And do you have any questions at all?
Could I just check, are there any particular opportunities that you want to highlight that you're looking for people, or are you just looking for people generally?
We're just, at the moment, we're just looking for people more generally. You become part of the forum, and then what happens is, as soon as opportunities become available, we have a weekly engagement bulletin that we will send out, and this will have all of those different opportunities within it, and you get to then apply to be a part of that. So some people that we've just had a big recruitment drive in October, and some people are already sitting within targeted lung health checks, various different activities. Primary care is another one that's recruited recently. So yeah, obviously there are times where there's more opportunities than others, and there might be times where it's a bit quieter, but during those times we have information sessions and catch-ups, and yeah, just to try and keep people obviously engaged.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, William. Rach, thanks so much for obviously giving us that overview. For members who have been part of the PPG for a while, you may recall seeing Rach before, because Patrick Maguire used to be the South East representative on the PPV forum, but unfortunately, with all his other involvement activities that he's doing, he's stepped down from that particular role, and so we didn't actually have anybody from the Alliance in that slot. So that's why I thought it'd be great for Rachel to come back and sort of just for our new members really to hear more about the sort of broader national aspects that patient involvement offers.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add that at the moment, Thames Valley is not represented within that national space. So it would be really great to have you as part of that, and for you to have your voice heard within that national arena as well. But thank you, Lisa, for all your support as well, and being so involved within the engagement network. Fantastic advocate.
Okay.
And Patrick's still happy to hold anyone's hand and give them a guide if
Brilliant.
they are interested, to hear it from the patient perspective. So he obviously still involved with our Alliance. He's part and parcel of the comms and engagement strategy subgroup. So if anybody is interested, he's happy to have a one-to-one conversation with them as well.
Brilliant.
Okay. So, Kath?
Are the opportunities open to carers for patients who've
Yes.
had cancer? Because I haven't. Okay, thank you.
Definitely. Absolutely. In fact, we need more carers. So yes, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Peter, you have a question? Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
Very, very quick thanks to the producers like Lisa and the other producers of today's Cancer Alliance update. Mark Fulks, lead consultant nurse in the Royal Berkshire Hospital, has been awarded the King's MBE, very well deserved. And thank you so much, Lisa, for picking that up for me.
Okay.
Wow, amazing.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Peter. Oh, okay, so in terms of next steps, Rachel, what do people need to do if they're interested?
So we have a role profile that I will I'll ask Lisa to circulate if that's okay, and an application form. Now, please don't be put off by the role profile and the application form. It's one of those things that we've had to follow the central team's guidance around, and it looks big, bad and scary, but it's really not. What we effectively need are people with lived experience of cancer or of caring for somebody with cancer that is able to join us and share their experiences. So yeah, we'll send that application form out for you.
Okay, that's great. Vicky?
Just a quick question. Does it have to be lived experience within the NHS, or can it be within the private sector?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it probably needs to be within the NHS, as this is very much reflecting on the experience of services that are existing and how we can improve.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I will go back and just make sure on that though, because I haven't had that question before. So I think that's really worthwhile me considering that. And I don't want to say completely no, because yeah, let me have a think about that, Vicky, and I'll come back to you.
Thanks.
I think that's an interesting point, because clearly while we're focusing on the NHS, there's a significant relationship between both sectors, and it may well be helpful to have some input from an NHS perspective. But yes, Rachel, I'm sure you'll come back on that. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. We're now on to any other business.
Rach, thanks ever so much.
Thank you.
That's
Yes.
okay.
Appreciate your
No
time.
problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so before we move on to the next slide, we've got on the next slide, we're just flagging up some ideas that have been shared about potential items for future meetings. But before we do that, has anyone got any other business based on what we've been doing today? Any other points they'd like to raise? No? Okay, Lisa, next slide then, please. Okay, so these have been suggested by a number of members. And now we may not have an opportunity to do all of these on the next agenda. We'll sort of see how it goes. But if anyone has any additional thoughts or proposals, please do let Lisa know. But I'm certainly very keen to see if we can cover as many of these as possible, both either in the next meeting or the one following. Okay, well, we've had Nikki, but I mean, as Lisa said, Nikki will be wanting her to come back to say, well, okay, what's happened? What is the strategy? Anyone want to throw anything in immediately at the moment off the top of your head? Feel free. No? Okay. Well, as I say, do follow through with any kind of thoughts and ideas to Lisa. Okay, well, we've got to the end of the meeting. Lisa, do you want to pick up your final? There you go. Thank you, everyone. Ice lollies look very attractive at the moment, you know. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please do enjoy the rest of the summer, although perhaps those of you who are England football fans may have a more challenging time in doing that. As an Irishman, I'm not going to make any comment. Thank you very much, everyone. And Andrew, I think you're going to stay on just to have a follow-up word with Lisa. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you,
Everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.